Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now a lot of people have been asking me to do another ebonized bowl. So I've got another piece of oak. It's a nice chunky size, which is going to be fun to work on. But to make this one a little bit different to the previous one I did, I've managed to get hold of a lot of aluminium swarf. So what I thought is we create a normal, fairly standard bowl shape and then inlay it with the aluminium, but we're going to inlay it in a black resin. So it'll be a black bowl, black resin, but then the silver of the aluminium showing through. That's the plan anyway. So this bowl blank came with the centre already marked on, and I'm just going to check it just to make sure that, yep. I'd hate to drill that centre and then suddenly find that it wasn't actually the centre anyway. So I'm going to drill this so we can get it onto the worm screw. I'll get it turned around, flattened off, and then we'll get to turning. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for the overwhelming support so far. It's been quite mind-blowing. I set up this channel, I suppose, about 6 weeks ago. Not really sure exactly what to expect, but the action so far has been beyond my wildest expectations. So thank you all so much. I will do my best to keep these. Oh my goodness me. It looks like it's drunk. I'll do my best to keep the videos coming. Right, this is going to take some squaring up. Will it spin okay? Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we can get this back round. Right, we'll get it round first, and then we'll start. We'll do the face first. There's some aluminium bits stuck on it. Do you know what? I've had a sudden desire to create a very, very architectural, heavy type bowl. In other words, we're going to leave the sides straight. We're going to come in probably 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch to create a lip at the bottom here, and then another lip on the other side to give about an inch or so, sorry, 1/2 inch lip in the middle here, which will act as a foot, and then we'll go in a little bit and create the recess. The top, very flat, bowl in the centre, and the inlay. But I think that's going to produce quite a stunning piece. Famous last words. Right, let's give it a go. I've never done anything like this before. I've just had a sudden urge, and if nothing not spontaneous. Right. Right, I was going to do a quick resharpening of all these so we can put some finishing cuts on them. I'll bring you back in a second. Right, I've had a good old sharpening party. Sharpened gouges, a couple of skews, and the carbide as well. Let's get this ready for sanding. Right, before I continue, this the weight of this bowl being on a worm screw on this chuck is giving me a bit more vibration than I'm happy with, so I'm going to take off this worm screw and put it on another one which will be a lot closer to the spindle. Much better. Right, I keep on thinking to myself, should I put a slight curve on the outside? That's chickening out, isn't it? Architectural, think architectural. Right, this edge needs sorting out, and this here. Good. Now I'm going to re-centre this hole, because with me moving it onto a different chuck, so onto a different worm screw, I can't guarantee that that's exactly in the right place, so I'm just going to chew that up. Lovely, that should be fine. Right, I'm going to start sanding. Actually, just so that I can get that with sanding. Right, I'm going to start sanding. I'll let you watch the first bit and then I'll turn you off, because, like I say, it's just a dirty, noisy experience. Right, I'll bring you back in a second and I'll start the sanding. Right, we've got to 600. If I was going to give any advice for any new turner, is to spend far longer than you would ever think on the higher grits, you know, the more coarse grits, just to make sure you can eradicate any imperfections. Quite often you'll skip over grits just to think, well, okay, I can solve whatever fault you've seen with the higher grits, but I tell you, they do not go away, so make sure you get what you can with every grit as you go along. When you start with one grit, get it as good as you can. Make sure you get rid of all the imperfections before you move on to the next. Right, I'll step down from my high horse and put on some isopropyl alcohol to clean all the dust off out the pores of the wood. One problem I have is that the isopropyl alcohol is in exactly the same shape and style bottle as my mineral oil, and I have occasionally accidentally just cleaned out the pores with mineral oil, which doesn't work overly well. The finish was nice, but not what I was looking for at the time. As I mentioned before, we're going to ebonize this now. Now, the ebonising fluid I use is a fairly traditional type of ink, which you can make up yourself. And if you go to the Deathly Hallows videos, there's a link on there to the video where I got the instructions on how to make it. It's quite simple. It's not an overnight thing. You need a few weeks to be able to make it, because the main ingredient is wire wool satin vinegar, and that has to sit for a few weeks before you can use it. So it's not an overnight kind of product you make. It's something you have to plan to make. Just give time for the alcohol to evaporate mostly. Now, this is not instantaneous. Don't expect me just to slot this on and it's going to go straight black, because that's not how it works. It reacts with the tannins in the wood, and through a chemical process turns them black. Now, if you use the traditional ink, the traditional tannin fluid, you can get the wood black, but not black, you know, not very black. So by adding iron 2 sulfate to the mix, you can get it very, very black. That voice you can hear in the background is my wife feeding next door's dog behind their back. Right, we'll just let that. Sorry, my wife's being rumbled feeding the dog next door. Right, we'll just let that sit for a second, see how that darkens, and then we'll put on another coat, because we want it really, really black. So we want a really striking architectural style piece. Okay, it's been sat for a little while and it's turning lovely. Let's give it another coat. Let's give it a good chance of getting it as black as we can get it. I intend to do the same thing that I did with the Deathly Hallows bowl by putting a silver embellishing fluid, sorry, embellishing wax on the bowl after after we've taken the wire wool to it. Because that silver, you won't turn the whole thing silver, but the silver will stick inside the grain lines. As we're using black and aluminium for the resin inlay, those two should contrast together quite nicely. put this glare on, I'm going to go inside and get something to eat, because I just heard my wife mention something about pizza. I keep meaning to get a sponge to see if it's easy to put on with a sponge. And as soon as I do, I'll let you know. I'll give that a try. Because paper towels are fine, but they do tend to disintegrate when you're doing this kind of thing. I'm pretty happy with that. So the ink looks black in the bottle, but when it comes out, it's like a light brown, almost clear colour. But with the chemicals in it that make it react with the tan in the wood and go black. Now, oak is naturally very, very heavy with tannins, so the best wood to ebonize is always going to be oak. But at some point in the near future, I'm going to try it on a few other types of wood and see how it fares on them. Right, lovely. Right, I'm going to get something to eat. I shall see you lovely people soon. Right, welcome back. It's a good few hours to dry. That looks amazing. That's gone so dark, it's almost like a blue-black. It's that dark. Right, so we'll give it a wire wooling, and then we can put the embellishing wax on. It's a very, very fine wire wool, so it's not going to take up any. Oh, I haven't turned the lathe on. It's a very fine wire wool, so it's not going to lighten it. Maybe a fraction, but not enough to notice. Just give it one more quick bit of isopropyl, just to clear that wire wool off it, in case there's any bits left on. Right, we're all set up, ready to put the embellishing wax on. Put this on the way like any normal wax. Just make sure the first time you get a good even colouring. Sorry, even covering, even. Just press it in and work it into all the grains. I find putting it on with a circular motion, so you hit the grain coming forward and backwards. And that's that. That's looking quite stunning. Never get tired of seeing this effect with the ebonised wood and then the silver on top. Right, next stage for that is to turn it around and start working on the inside. But we're going to start on that tomorrow. But one thing I need to do before I call it a day is this aluminium swarf which I've got. It smells of machinery, so there's obviously a fair amount of oils and stuff actually on the material, so I'm going to get some of this, put it into a bowl and let it saturate for a while with some washing up liquid and hot water just to clean it, and I'll dry it in the morning and then be ready to use it as an inlay. But apart from that, I'll see you soon. Right, welcome back. We've got it turned around in the chuck now. I'm going to start hollowing out the inside. First of all, I'm going to take a few passes across just to flatten this, because it's, as you can see by that, there's a lot of height difference in the blank. Face shield on. That's got the majority of it flat. The rest you can do once we've turned out the inside. A little bit. Right. Let's clear this out. Before I go too much further, I'm just going to quickly check the depth on the bottom of the bowl. I always like to try and keep a decent thickness on my bowls because I like the way they feel, the weight of them, it's far more pleasing. So there's about 1 inch on the base, so we can afford to go a bit further down, but I need to bring in the edge, so I think about 1/2 inch in there. I aim for I want a reasonable thickness because I've got to put a nice inlay in there, so I think that about width on the bowl rim. Just switch back to Right, that's a lot better. The rest of it I can get with sanding. So we're going to take a look at this inlay. Now the inlay, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be using aluminium swarf. This is when they're turning aluminium pieces on the lathe, then this is the stuff that's cut off. And when I first got it, it smelled very much of oil and stuff like that, so I've degreased it and dried it, and that should be nice now to set into the rim. But we're going to set it in with a black resin, so when we turn it back we'll get the black and hopefully the shiny aluminium poking through. That's the plan anyway. I'm going to do a lot of masking up. When I put this resin in because it's going to be a very mucky process, and I do not want to get anything onto the outside because it looks absolutely beautiful, and I don't want to touch that at all. I'll have to redo that. So right, let's get this inlay in, and then we'll figure out how best to mask it up and put in this resin. Just going to take a couple more passes across just to smooth up the edge the last little bit. Now I'm just going to put some sealer in here because the resin can sometimes come through on the walls inside. I don't want anything to stop or anything to fill the grains of the wood because I need to be able to put the silver polish on the top. So I'm just going to grab some sealer. Right, excellent. Right, we're going to take it off, leave it on the chuck, but we're going to take it off the lathe and get everything ready for the resin pour. Right, see you in a second. Right, I think we've got everything set up. I've mixed 72 grams of resin. This is the glass cast resin. I'm not sponsored by them. I only dream of being sponsored by them. But anyway, so this is a glass cast resin which a friend of mine recommended, which is good for casting in wood. The numbers, this is glass cast 50, which basically means that you can cast up to 50mm depth. So when you see the glass cast on the websites, it always has a number afterwards, and that gives you an idea of how deep that you can pour the resin. So I haven't mixed it yet, so that's it there. I've got a jug of hot water ready to sit this in once I've mixed it, to ensure that I can try and get as many bubbles out as possible. Now my plan, whether this is right or wrong I'm not sure, but my plan is to mix this up thoroughly, mix the colour into it, and then pour a quantity of it into the aluminium, and then put the aluminium into the rim. The reason, well, my thought process my thought process for this is that when you add any kind of moisture or liquid to this aluminium, you're going to get an awful lot of air bubbles. So if I'd put the aluminium in there first and then poured on top, I'd be having an awful long time trying to get the air bubbles out, and I don't have a pressure pot, so I've got to try and work around these things the best I can. So if I saturate this aluminium first with the resin and then put it in, there's more resin in the aluminium to start off with, so air bubbles will be less. Makes sense to me anyway. I suppose we will find out. Right, let's put some of this black in. thoroughly well mixed. So I shall pour some into the aluminium and put the rest in my jar with hot water. Here goes nothing. Right, I'll shove that in there. That's going to need a lot more. May have to actually mix up some more resin, but that's fine. I have more. This can be done. Okay, right, I'm going to pour all of this resin, which I just made, into the aluminium. And I'll make up another quantity to pour in afterwards. Looks delicious. Right. I'm starting to think that the actual putting it in with resin on it is making this stuff slightly easier to work with. The reason why I'm saying that is because all the time I've been washing this stuff and cleaning it and drying it, it sticks to everything, and it's grabby and it's springy and it's horrible to use. So this may actually be kind of taming it a little bit, but I guess the only way to really know is to produce another bowl where I put the aluminium in first and then resin on top. Right, we'll mix up a bit more resin. I'll come back to you in a second. And we'll pour a bit more in. I think throw these gloves away before I even try and turn the camera off. Right, see you in a sec. Yep, you guessed it. Batteries ran out again. exactly as it is. Come back in every 10-15 minutes or so and just give it a going over with the blowtorch, just to make sure that any bubbles nearing the surface are popped. But apart from that, we now wait. I think I'm going to give this between 24 and 48 hours to fully set before we put it back on the lathe and turn it down. I can't wait to see it. Alright, okay, I'll bring it back when the next stage is ready. Alright, well, it's had 48 hours to cure. So we're now going to cut this surface back before we worry about any of the overspill in the bowl. So I don't want to be working in there with these little razors flying around quickly. So I'm going to put my face shield on. I've got gloves on because I don't want to risk any damage to my hands. I'm going to try a carbide first of all. Get the face shield. Let's see what happens. I do believe it's working. Maybe a couple of gaps to fill. But so far so good. A bit further. I think when the edge is re-ebonised, not re-ebonised, but when it's ebonised, because we haven't done it once yet, it's going to be a fantastic contrast between that and the silver from the aluminium. Right, let's start cleaning up a bit of the bottom. This stuff's messy, it's everywhere. Yep, pretty good. Now we'll start sanding this. As usual, I'll let you watch the first few couple of passes, but then I'll pause the video because, like I've said many times before, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. So I'll go and get my mask on, turn the extraction on, and we'll start sanding. Right, I'll bring you back in a little while when this is all done. Okay, we're now up to 600 grit, and it's got a beautiful finish on it, absolutely gorgeous. Now I'm starting to think, is this bowl, does it want to be all ebonised on the inside? as well as on the outside, because I am liking the kind of contrast over between the different layers. Black on the outside and natural on the inside. I don't know. Right, I'm going to clean it off with isopropyl while I consider. Whatever I decide, if you felt I've made the right decision or the wrong decision, then just please leave a note in the comments below. And remember, by liking, subscribing and leaving a comment, you're also going to be entered into the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. So no harm can come from it. What to do? I've decided. I'm not going to ebonize it, but I will put on the silver embellishing wax, I think. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Right, there it goes. If it looks terrible, I can always redo it. I can always refinish it. The silver embellishing wax on the inside is going to be far more subtle than it is on the outside, because it hasn't got a stark contrast again to work against it, but you'll still see it. It'll still be very, very pretty. Spend quite a lot of time making sure that I've got as much into the grains as possible here. So I'm not going to be skimping at all. It's not overly expensive, this stuff, but I still, again, want to make sure that I can get in to all the grain that's visible, to make the most out of it. Right, let's give it a shine. Start off shining with the lathe going a little bit slower, and then as it's worked all in, I'll pick up the speed. Start removing it, putting it in, get the speed a bit. clean piece of cloth. Make sure I've got everything off. Yeah. Right, there we have it. A part ebonised bowl with a resin and aluminium inlay, finished off with a silver embellishing wax. That's quite a long title, isn't it? Right, I'm going to get this off the lathe, and then I'll set up some beauty shots for you at the end. I'll try and get a close-up of this inlay because it's absolutely stunning. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I've certainly enjoyed this one. This has just been unbelievable. Oh, I've got silver fingers. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, a project just comes off exactly how you were hoping it to happen, even though, yes, we did go with a different design at the start, and yes, we didn't quite ebonize the whole lot, but what's come off at the end is hopefully better than the sum of its parts. So, anyway, I'll bring you back for the beauty shots, but once again, thanks very much for viewing, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.